Hello students, welcome to my lecture series on reinforced concrete structures. In this class, I am going to discuss about codal recommendations for two-way restrained slabs. This slab can be designed as per IS 456-2000 codal recommendations and by using limit state method. Right? The outcomes of today's lecture are like this. Upon completion of this lecture, you will be able to know what are the different types of two-way slabs and what is the definition of corners held down slabs, or we can call it as a restrained slab. And you should know what is the definition of corners are not held down, and other name of this is unrestrained slabs. And finally, we'll be able to know what are the IS 456-2000 recommendations has given for a design of restrained slabs are. Right? So let us discuss one of the things we have discussed in previous class. In previous class, we have discussed about a complete design of one-way cantilever slab. You know, the cantilever slab means one end of the slab is fixed, another end of the slab is free. So for this design of this slab, we have chosen some steps. First step is for effective depth calculation. Second step would be effective length, then total load, total factored load, and factored bending moment. From that, we have to calculate minimum depth required, minimum thickness of the slab as per the given loading condition. Say how to calculate the effective length of this cantilever slab. He has given some recommendations, that code has given some recommendations that the effective length of the slab can be taken as unsupported length, or I can say projected length from the support, or overhanging length from the support. And similarly, the effective depth can be calculated by using the ratio, that is a span by 10 to span by 12. In between these two values, we can choose what is the effective depth of the slab is. Right? And this if you are designing a uniform depth a cantilever beam, then that depth must be like L by span by 10 to the span by 12. And if you are designing a varying depth cantilever slab, the at a free end, the depth of the cantilever slab must be half of overall depth of the slab at the fixed end, or one third of overall depth of the slab at the fixed end. The value may vary between these two also. So these are the recommendations given by code for thickness of the slab at various position, as it is a uniform depth or a varying depth, like that. By using that, we have calculated what is the effective depth and effective length. After calculating effective depth and effective length, we have calculated what the total load are. So total load means dead load, live load, and any finishes are there, finishing load also consider. By adding all together, we have calculated total load. The total load must be multiplied with some suitable partial factor of safety, then we'll get a design load. Based on the design loads, we have calculated what is the moment, factored moment. That means what is the maximum moment that can be coming over a cantilever slab due to application of load. And for that, resisting that load, what is the dimensions and area of steel we have to provide, that we have to calculate in this design of cantilever beam. So for calculating the effective or minimum effective depth required or minimum effective thickness required for the slab, we have to equate maximum moment of resistance to the ultimate bending moment which we have obtained from factored load. From that we can calculate what is the small d is, that is the thickness of slab, minimum thickness of slab required for given loading condition. As already we have calculated that effective depth based on the L by 10 and L by 2, that span by 10 and span by 12 criteria, then we have to check whether minimum depth of slab provided is less than or greater than the depth obtained from the stiffness criteria L by 10 to L by 12. If L by your obtained depth of slab based on the stiffness criteria is greater than the minimum depth required for the slab, then we can adapt the obtained depth from the stiffness criteria as a original depth of the slab, and we go for the further steps. Then we have to calculate Area of steel can be calculated with respect to tension zone of the member, that is by using mu equal to 0.87 Fy AST into D 1 minus Fy AST by Fck into BD formula. So that area of steel can be checked with the minimum area of steel provided, and then we go for check again as a deflection, check again as a shear and development length to be provided. All these things we have discussed and we have designed in one-way cantilever slab. So in today's class, we'll discuss about two-way slab. What is a two-way slab? What are the different type of two-way slab? And how what are the codal recommendation for designing of this two-way slab? These things we'll discuss in today's class. So as already we know that the definition of two-way slab, that is slabs are having ratio between longer span to the shorter span less than or equal to 2. Generally, longer span is a Ly and shorter span is Lx. The ratio of this Ly by Lx is less than or equal to 2. Then we can design this slab as a two-way slab. And further, these two-way slabs are supported over a 4 edges. So if you take this as a slab, it's a two-way slab, and these hatching forces will showing you the supports. So all 4 sides of the slab are support we have. So then also we can call it as a two-way slab. And it is spanning in 2 direction, means this slab will spanning x direction, spanning in y direction. That's why it is spanning in 2 direction. And here for this particular slab, the bending moment occurs in both the direction. Say the bending moment takes place in this shorter direction and this longer direction also. The shape of the bending moment will be like this. This will finally, the slab will take a shape of some saucer shape. So the bending will be like that, and the main reinforcement will be provided in both the direction. As like your simply one-way slab, in one-way slab will provide a main reinforcement in only one direction, that is the shorter direction, because the bending moment taking place in this particular one-way slab is only shorter direction. But in the case of two-way slab, the bending moment taking place in shorter direction and the longer direction. So in both the direction, we have to provide the main reinforcement in order to counteract that the bending moment associated with a shorter direction and bending moment associated with a longer direction. That's why we have to provide a main reinforcement in both the direction. That means whatever the diameter of bar provided in shorter direction, same diameter bar will be provided in longer direction also. The spacing may be different. Say we'll see, but that will depend upon the type of design we have, right? So this is all about your definition of two-way slab. Let us discuss what are the types of two-way slabs. The types of two-way slabs are 2. There are restrained slabs and unrestrained slab. These restrained slabs, also called as a corners of a slabs or held down condition, and unrestrained slabs are called the corner of slabs are not in held down position, right? So we'll discuss one by one what is the restrained slab and what is the unrestrained slab is. So let us see what is the restrained slab is. So when a two-way slab is loaded, generally the corners of slabs are lifted up, right? This lifting of slab is prevented by providing some fixity at the support by means of beams or walls, right? There generally we have 4 corners of a slab, and because of loading, generally the corners will be lifted up, not immediately after casting, after some time, but those lifting of a corners are prevented by providing some fixity in the form of beams and walls. Then those types of slabs are called restrained slabs. Finally, the definition of restrained slab will be like this: the slabs whose corner are prevented from lifting are called as a restrained slab. And this slab also call it as slabs with corners held down. That means in this type of slab, the corners of slab will not able to lift up because of there is a extra weight by means of wall or the beams provided. That's why the corners are in down position, that's called held down position. And because of these corners are held down, there are cracks may appear at the corners of the slab. To prevent those cracks, we have to provide torsional reinforcement at the edges of the slab to prevent this crack. Only the torsional reinforcement will be provided in restrained slab, not unrestrained slab. What is the reason for providing? The reason for providing torsional reinforcement is the edges are not lifting freely, and that lifting of that edges or the corners of the slab are prevented by means of some support or some weight we are providing over that. Because of that, there may be a torsional stresses are occur. Due to the torsional stresses, the cracks will be formed. Right? So this is all about your restrained slabs, and as I already told you that the restrained slabs are making corners held down by means of providing walls and beams. Say here IS code Indian standard specifies two ways of providing fixity for the restrained slabs. Those we'll see here. The first one is slab is simply supported on four edges by beams and slabs are casted monolithic. So what do you mean by monolithic? Monolithic means a single structure. Here, even the slabs are, when we are designing a simply supported two-way slab, and the slabs are supported over a simply support along the four directions, and then we'll cast slab as well as beam at the same time. That structure is called a monolithic structure. In the particular situation, see here I have a figure. So these are the supports, simply supports, as in the form of a columns, and these are the beams. These are the beams, and this is a slab. It's the bottom view of a slab. This is a slab, and these beams and these slabs are casted at the same time. So we can call it as a monolithic construction. So because of this monolithic, the corners of this slab. So if here we have a corner, here we have a corner, and here we have a corner, and here we have a corner. If this slab is mounted over a simple wall, because of load application on this slab, the corners of this slab may lifted up. But in this case, what we are doing? We are casting a slab and the beam at the same time. Because of that, the lifting of this corner or this corner are prevented by this weight of the beam. The weight which is provided below the slab is that because of that weight, as we are casting it monolithic, they are acting at a single member. So this beam will prevent the lifting of the slab at the corner. So that means we are providing a fixity by means of a monolithic construction, as slab and beams are casted at a single entity. Right? This is one way of preventing lifting of corners of a slab. And another way is the slab is supported on the edges by four walls, and there are a superstructure walls also above the slab. That means, so this is a structure, and these are the walls. These two sides are appear to you, another two sides are behind this, and the slab is mounted over these four walls, right? And over the four wall or over the superstructure of this wall, we have one more wall, that is a parapet wall, we can say. And because of this parapet wall, the corners or edges of the slab not lifting up, because we are providing weight by means of parapet wall here, right? And this is called another form of fixity. We are providing not to lift our corners of a slab. In both the cases, we can use for restrained slab. First case, one is beam and slab are casted monolithic, and the second case, and when your slab is placed over the four sides, four support as a brick wall, and over the slab we have to provide one more wall, is called a parapet wall, or you can provide one more floor on this also. That floor will restrict the lifting of a corner of a slab from this slab, right? So these are the two ways of restricting or preventing lifting of corners in the slab, and these slabs are called restrained slabs. So let us discuss what is the definition of unrestrained slab is. So that is exactly opposite to that. The slab in which corners are not prevented from the lifting are called unrestrained slab. Means we are not providing anything, just the slab is mounted over a wall or a mounted over a simply supports, and slab and beams are not casted monolithically, so it is free to lift. It is free to lift the corners. That's why this type of slabs are called unrestrained slabs. When a slab is simply supported on the walls and neither the parapet wall nor upper floor are constructed, then corners or slabs are free to lift. Then this type of slab also called as the corners are not held down slabs, right? So this is a restrained slabs and unrestrained slabs. So in this class I'm going to discuss the codal recommendation for restrained slabs only. So let us see the torsional effect in two-way slab. As I told you, the restrained slabs at the corners, the torsional stresses are developed because they are not holding up, they are not lifting up. So because of that, there at the corners of the slab, there may be a chances of torsional stresses. Because of the torsional stresses, the cracks will occur. We'll see how this torsional effect will be, right? So we know when the corners are not held down, the slab has a tendency to lift near the corner as shown in figure like this. Say, assume that initially, so there is no a parapet wall or the slab and beams are not casted monolithically. The slab will be folded like this, or lift, this corner will lift like this corner will lift like this corner will lift like this, and this corner will lift like this, and a free to lift. But when your corners are prevented from the lifting due to the walls and monolithic support conditions, the torsional stresses are developed at the corner. Say, now in this case, over the slab, we are providing a wall in the form of parapet or another floor, or otherwise we have casted this slab at the same time with a beam. That is a monolithic construction. Because of that, the corners are not too free to lift. It means the lifting is prevented. Then what will happen at the corners of this slab? There is a chance of torsional stresses occur. Due to these torsional stresses, the cracks will form at the edges, right? In order to avoid these cracks, we have to provide a torsional reinforcement at the edges of the slab. So for how much we have to provide the torsional reinforcement, that means what is the area of torsional reinforcement is provided, and which edge conditions we have to provide torsional reinforcement. Those things we'll discuss in detail in later slides, the coming slides. I will see. This is a torsional effect on your restrained slabs, right? So let's see the codal recommendations. So what is the first recommendation? The maximum bending moments per unit width in a slab are given by following equation. So these are the codal equations. So that is mx equal to alpha x w lx square and my equal to alpha y w lx square. Here mx is a maximum bending moment along the x direction. My is a maximum bending moment along the y direction. And here we have alpha x and alpha y are the bending moment coefficients. These bending moment coefficients are depend upon the edge conditions. Those we'll discuss later. And here W is the your affected load, and Lx is the effective length in shorter direction. Effective length in shorter direction. So by using these two formulas, we can calculate the maximum bending moment occurs in shorter direction and the maximum bending moment in longer direction. Those bending moments are also called as a design moments. And this alpha x and alpha y values are called bending moment coefficient. Those values can be taken from table number 26 of IS 456 2000. So let us see the table now. So this is a table. The bending moment coefficient for rectangular panels supported on the four sides with the provision of torsion at corners. See, these are the type of panels given in this here in column number 2, and I have divided this whole table into two parts, and we have a altogether 9 conditions of a edge of a slab, and for that these are the coefficient along the shorter direction and these are the coefficient along the longer direction, right? and is given the ratio Ly by Lx ratio, that is minimum value is 1 and maximum value is 2. In between 2 we have the two-way slabs, right? So here we have edge conditions are like this: interior panel, one short edge continuous and one long edge continuous, two adjacent edges are continuous and two short edges are continuous, two long edges are continuous, three edges are continuous, three edges are discontinuous, three edges are continuous, one long edge is continuous. So see here the question is, these all are a one long edge is continuous. You see all are discontinuous, three edges are discontinuous, three edges are discontinuous and four edges are discontinuous. Here there's some mistake is there. All edges are discontinuous. You have to write here three edges are discontinuous but one long edge is continuous here, and three edges are discontinuous, one long edge is continuous, and here four edges are discontinuous. But there are some mistakes in code also. There is a typing topographical mistake, but here I have clearly given you, right? Panel 1 corresponding to the interior panel, panel 2 corresponding, these are rectangle panels. One short edge is discontinuous, that means remaining three edges are continuous, and panel 3 is one long edge is discontinuous, remaining all edges are continuous, and panel 4 the two adjacent edges are discontinuous, and here panel 5 two short edges are discontinuous, panel 6 two long edges are discontinuous, and panel 7 three edges are discontinuous and one long edge is continuous, and panel 8 three edges are discontinuous, one short edge is continuous, and panel 9 four edges are discontinuous. So what are these panels and what are these continuous and discontinuous? I think we might have confused with this. So I will explain all these things with respect to these figures here. Say if I say the panel is interior panel, then that is related to the first case in our codal provision. Here all four sides of this panel are continuous. This arrow shows you continuous edge and this hatched portion shows you a discontinuous edge. See, with respect to this, what is the first panel? It is a interior panel. That means all the four edges are continuous, right? See here number 2. What is the panel number 2? One short edge is discontinuous. One short edge is discontinuous, remaining one short edge and two long edges are continuous. Say here I am showing with the hatched line here, this is a discontinuous short edge and is a continuous long edges and is a continuous short edge in other side. So this is a panel number 2, that is one short edge is discontinuous. And similarly I have in a panel number 3, a rectangular panel 3, that is one long edge is discontinuous. That means remaining two short edges are continuous and one long edge also a continuous. So that can be clearly shown this from figure. This one long edge is a continuous here and another long edge is, one long edge is discontinuous here and another long edge is continuous here and two short edges are continuous here. This is a condition number 3. And then condition number 4, two adjacent edges are discontinuous. Those may be long, one may be long, another may be short. So the adjacent edges are, this is one and this is another. These two are adjacent to each other. So here it is a shorter edge and it is a longer edge. These two are discontinuous. And remaining edges, one long edge and another short edge will be continuous. This can be shown by arrow marks. And here another condition we have for edge, that is two short edges are discontinuous. That's why here we have this is a short edge and this is a short edge. These short edges are shown with a hatched lines and these long edges are shown with a arrow that will show you a continuous edge. And the sixth condition will be two long edges are discontinuous. That means the long portion of the slab will be hatched, so that will represent you what? They are discontinued. And the shorter edges are shown by means of arrows Those are called a continuous edges. And seventh panel will be three edges are discontinued. Among these four edges of this panel, one edge is, that is a long edge, is continuous. So this is, we have shorter edge, a longer edge, left with one longer edge, that is a continuous here. And eighth condition is three edges are discontinuous but one short edge is continuous. So these two long edges are discontinuous and one short edge also discontinuous. This arrow mark represent you one short edge is discontinuous. Sorry, continuous. Sorry, it is a continuous. And we have a fourth, it's the ninth condition, last condition. Four edges are discontinuous. That means among the all four sides we have a hatching. So there is no continuation in any direction of this slab. That's why we can call it as a four discontinuous edges. In this all my lecture, I will design a slab with respect to these four discontinuous edges only. Right? I think you got the point regarding different cases or of your codal provisions. That is 1 to 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 we have, right? So these are the edge conditions. Based on the edge conditions, we have to calculate what are the bending moment coefficients, and these bending moment coefficients values will vary from from support conditions, the panel type of panels. So we have different your alpha x and alpha y for interior panels, and one edge short and one edge continuous, like that. So those values we have to calculate based on the edge condition, whether it is a that is an interior panel, or whether it is a all four sides are discontinuous, or two edges are discontinuous, or two edges are continuous. Based on that, we have to calculate the your alpha x and alpha y values. Those are called a bending moment coefficients from that. But if you observe the table, you have bending moment coefficient for each panel condition are two. One is negative moment condition, negative moments, and positive moments. Right? If you see interior panel, negative moment at the continuous edges and positive moment at the midspan. What do you mean by this? And if you see, for the sum of the cases, we don't have some negative moments and we have only positive moment. And if you see that those are come across with the case number 6 and case number 8, and if the case number 9, only we have a positive moments at the midspan. Now how to calculate, or how have we come to arrive those positive and negative moments in the slab? So those things we'll see by using some examples here. Say here, this is a complete slab. From this slab I can say we have 9 conditions of slab given. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 and 9 finally. And so this is a 4.5 is a longer span and 3 meter the shorter span for this particular 7, and it's a longer span and it's a shorter span and it's a longer span and a shorter span. Say let me see all those conditions are put together. We have made one slab here. See the first one. What is the first condition? The interior panel means all four sides are continuous. If you see for this is continuous, this is continuous, this is continuous, and this is continuous. And if you see the your second condition, that is, what is that? One short edge is discontinuous. So this will be the short edge and this is a longer edge. This hatching portion will show you the discontinuous edge of the slab. So only this is discontinued, and this direction and this direction and this direction are continued. Let us take the example of panel 6. So two long edges. From this I can say two long edges are discontinuous and two short edges are continuous. So this is related to our panel 6 or condition 6 in our codal provision. So like that we can see, and finally if you see that number 9, what is the number 9? All four edges are discontinuous. So this is a longer edge, 3.75 direction, this is a shorter direction, 3 meters, and all four directions are discontinuous. Right? Let us see the positive and negative bending moment coefficient for different edge conditions. So let us take the first case. I will take a interior panel. So what is the interior panel? That is a continuous along all four directions. Say our example number 1 is a interior panel, and this interior panel is subjected to UDL throughout. If I draw the bending moment diagram for this, so it is a continuous edge and this is a continuous edge, and is a LY direction, it is a LX direction, shorter direction. The bending moment diagram will be like this, like this, like this. It is a continuous one. So if you see at the edges, we have a negative bending moment, as your baseline is this. The diagram shows below the baseline is negative and above that it will show the positive. So see at the edge, at the support of the slab, we have a negative bending moment, that is alpha y negative, and at the midspan of the slab we have a positive bending moment. So from this we have two negative values of y, that is alpha y negatives and alpha y positive here in Ly direction. And similarly, if you draw a bending moment diagram in shorter direction, that is Ls direction, and in this direction also this slab is continuous, so bending moment diagram will be like this here. And if you observe at this span of Lx, at the support we get a negative bending moment, and here also we get negative bending moment. The coefficient with respect to that bending moment is negative coefficient, so I can write here alpha x negative is the a coefficient of bending moment with respect to the negative bending moment along the x direction. And at the midspan of the slab, that your bending moment diagram shows above the baseline, so it is a positive. So bending moment with respect to this positive bending moment, the coefficient of bending moment with respect to the positive bending moment is called alpha x positive. So to design the system of a slab, that is interior panel, all four sides are continuous, then we required four values of bending moment coefficient. Those are alpha x positive, alpha y positive at supports and at the midspan. Altogether we required four values. So alpha x negative, alpha x positive, alpha y negative and alpha y positive. So based on these we can calculate what are their maximum bending moment values. From that we can go for calculation of size and design. We will design the slab. So this is one particular case. I am choosing some typical cases like where we have a two positive bending moment and two negative bending moment, where we have only one positive moment and where we have the all positive moments. Those cases I have considered. So next case, case number 9, all edges are discontinuous, right? So this is the discontinuous, there is no further proceeding of slab span. So if this is Ly direction, longer direction, this is Lx direction, shorter direction. If you draw the bending moment diagram for this, so we will get a bending moment diagram like this. That is a positive alpha y. That means we are getting a positive bending moment here. The coefficient corresponding to this positive bending moment is positive coefficient. That is, as we are drawing or we are calculating the bending moment in y direction, so it is alpha y is the bending moment coefficient with respect to the y direction. And similarly, in this direction also it is a discontinuous, so the bending moment diagram will be like this. So the bending moment is positive bending moment, the corresponding coefficient of bending moment is positive. So in order to design this type of slabs, we required two coefficients. One is positive y directional coefficient and positive x directional coefficient. That is, positive bending moment in y direction is alpha y, positive bending moment in x directional coefficient is alpha x. This value we required for calculating mx and my, that is the maximum bending moment and maximum bending moment in x direction and bending moment in y direction. Similarly, I will take one more peculiar case, that is two long edges are discontinuous. If you see for this case, for the alpha x calculation we have only positive values. For alpha y we have two values, that is one positive value and one other is negative value. See, if we go back to our code here, the sixth condition, we have positive movement at the midspan and negative movements at continuous edges are not there. For respect to alpha x, with respect to alpha y we have both the positive movement and the negative movement, positive y movement and negative y movement coefficients. So let us see those conditions here. So how we arrived those conditions. So see this panels number 6, and these two edges are discontinuous, right? Two long edges are discontinuous and short edges are continuous here, right? If we draw the bending moment diagram for this longer edge, see this longer edge is like this, and the bending moment diagram will be, the short edges are continuous. It will be, bending moment diagram will be like this. In this direction, we have a negative bending moment at the support and positive bending moment at the midspan. So negative bending moment at support means we get a negative moment coefficient, and positive moment at the midspan means we have a positive moment coefficient. So here we have one negative bending moment coefficient, that is alpha y negative. Another is a positive bending moment coefficient, alpha y positive. Now coming to this case, along the shorter direction Lx, and these two edges are discontinuous. So the bending moment occur is only positive bending moment. With respect to that, we'll get is positive bending moment coefficient alpha x plus. So same thing we can see in our codal provision. So there, for calculating alpha y, Ly by L ratio, we required alpha y positive and negative, and for calculating alpha x we required only one value, that is a midspan alpha x value, right? So by using this alpha x positive we can calculate mx. By using this alpha y positive and negative, the alpha positive and negative will calculate my values. Where if you are designing the slab, two long directions, two long edges are discontinuous. So these are the some typical cases. For likewise we can calculate for remaining cases also. So these are all about your the first recommendation, that is calculation of mx and my. The second recommendation given is the total slab will be divided into like this. They divide the slab into middle strips, edge strips as follows. So if you take the slab along the Ly direction, the slab will be divided into edge strip, middle strip and another edge strip. The width of this edge strip along the Ly direction will be Lx by 8, that is Lx by 8, and the width of the middle strip will be 3/4 of Ly, and width of the edge strip in this direction is Lx by 8. These two are same. And similarly, if you take along the x direction, the width of the edge strip will be 3/4 of Lx, middle strip will be 3/4 of Lx, and edge is Lx by 8 and Lx by 8. Like this, we have to divide our slab, edge strip, middle strip and another edge strip. Right. And third case will be the maximum moment calculated. That maximum moment should be applied to middle strip only, because the maximum bending moment will occur at this middle strip only. The whatever the bending moments were calculated like mx and my are applied to these middle strips only, right? And the reinforcement in the edge strip will be provided as with a minimum reinforcement. That minimum reinforcement we know, that is if you are using Fe 250, the minimum reinforcement provided is 0.15% of BD. For Fe 415, the minimum reinforcement will be provided at 0.12% of BD. And as the same thing, they have to satisfy the spacing criteria also. For this, we have to provide spacing is 5D and 450 mm, whichever is less. And next important condition is a torsional reinforcement at two discontinuous edges. As I told you, as we are designing a restraint slab, we have to provide a torsional reinforcement. Where should we provide the torsional reinforcement and how to provide that torsional reinforcement, we'll see here. If you see the statement here, the torsional reinforcement shall be provided at any corners where the slab is simply supported on the both edges meeting at the corners, and it shall consist of top and bottom reinforcement, each with a layers of bar are placed parallel to sides of the slab and extending from the edges from minimum distance of 1/5 of shorter span, and area of reinforcement in each shall be provided in 4 layers should be 3/4 of area required for the maximum midspan movement in this slab. So this statement I will explain clearly by using this help of the figure. See, So this is the slab. What the first statement says, the torsional reinforcement shall be provided at every corners where the slab is simply supported on the both the edges meeting at the corners. See, so this is a simply supported slab, and this is one edge of the slab, this is another edge of the slab. These two edges are meeting at this corner. Here we have to provide a torsional reinforcement. I can say these two edges are discontinuous edges. So here these torsional reinforcement will be provided in 4 layers, and they are providing parallel to the sides of the slabs, and those should be provided a length of Lx by 5 from the support of the slab. And the area of steel provided here is 3/4 of AST. AST here is the maximum reinforcement provided in the mid span, right? And see, this is the cross section of that. If I take the cross section here, that is that we have to provide in 4 layers, and this is the cross section, and this will be provided in this direction and in this direction also. The length of this direction will be Lx by 5, and length of this direction also Lx by 5. And second condition will be, see, and the torsional reinforcement is equal to the half that of described in previous case shall be provided at the corners contain one edge over only which the slab is continuous. Right. So second case, in the torsional reinforcement provided, so this is with the first case both edges are discontinuous, and second case, the meaning of second case is one edge is continuous and another edge is discontinuous. Say this edge of the slab is discontinuous, further it will not move in this direction, and this edge of the slab is a continuous. So this edge of the slab is discontinuous and this edge of the slab is continuous. That means I can say one edge of the slab is continuous. In this situation, the length of the torsional reinforcement will be provided, that is Lx by 5, and area of reinforcement will be provided half of that of provided in this case. So in this case we have provided 3/4 of AST, but in this case we have to provide 3/4 of AST by 2, that will give the 3/8 of AST, right? So this is this case, and here if you see this will in this figure, whatever the reinforcement we have provided here, and same in this case here also this edge of the slab is discontinuous and this edge of the slab is continuous. Finally I can say one edge of the slab is continuous. So whatever the amount of reinforcement we are providing here, the same reinforcement we have to provide here. And the last case will be the torsional reinforcement need not to provide at any corners containing by edges over the both slab continuous. Both edges are continuous. See, if the both edges of slabs are continuous, there is no need to provide the torsional reinforcement. See here in this figure, so this edge of the slab is continuous and this edge of the slab also continuous. In this case, in this corner, no need to provide a torsional reinforcement. So this is regarding a torsional reinforcement. Let us see remaining things. The tension reinforcement provided at the midspan in the middle strip shall be extended into the lower part of the slab to the width 0.25 into L of continuous edges and 0.15 L of a discontinuous edges. So these are related to your detailing of slab. See, we will see here. But what I told you that the tension reinforcement should be extended up to 0.15 in a LX is discontinuous edges. 0.25 in this one, 0.25 times L in a continuous edges and 0.1 time L1 is discontinuous edges. And second point, last point says, what is the last point in this? Over the continuous edges of middle strip, the tension reinforcement shall be extended upper part, that is 1.5 L times from the supports, and at least 50% of bar should be extended 0.3 of L in continuous supports. So there's things we'll see here. From the supports, see the 50% of bar should be extended, the 0.15 L times from the support, and remaining 50% into the slab, that is 0.3 LX. Right? This is a your detailing. We'll see when we design the problem. What is this? We'll discuss in detail about this. Right. Right, this is all about the your codal recommendations given, and this is the reinforcement detailing. This is a middle strip, and this is a edge strip, and this is a discontinuous slab, discontinuous in this direction, this is continuous, and you know we have to provide LY the torsional reinforcement here, here, and here and here, because all four sides we have to provide here, because the continuous is only one direction. Right. Here are some quiz questions. The torsional reinforcement provided, where you have to provide among these all the options we have to provide both the discontinuous and one continuous edges also. So the options are like this: near the corner of the discontinuous edges, near the corner of continuous edges, near the center, none of the above. It will be provided near the corners of discontinuous edges. The second question will be the area of tension reinforcement AST at the corners where the slab is discontinuous over the both edges is, that is ASTX by 2, 3 by 4th of ASTX, 3 by 8th of ASTX, and that is AT equal to AST. But both the ends are discontinuous, then we provide the torsional reinforcement 3/4 of ASTX. That is option B is correct. And similarly, another question we have the area of tension steel AST at the corners where the slab is discontinuous over the one edge. That is the option is AST, the half of that 3 by 4th of ASTX will provide. The option C is correct. That is AST 8 equal to 3 by 8 of ASTX. So thank you. That's all for today's lecture.